Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? Oh, there's that video. What's going on, Coach Paul? I was looking for that.
That is very apropos for this trading day, at least in equities. Boy, don't want to be there.
Yeah, stuck with no momentum in either direction. That's how it felt in the equities today. But there are a ton of different markets we can trade. We'll talk about those. But welcome to At the Buzzer, everyone. Our market recap. If it's the first time here, the goal of this session is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay. I've been a top step performance coach since June of 2023. And that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some experiences, perhaps some knowledge, and help you on your journey to be a better trader.
Awesome stuff. Thank you, Coach Paul. And you are all our chat, our audience. Let us know how you did today. Are you up on the day, down on the day? Keed CAD says gold made me 1.6K on my 50K account. It moved beautifully. Nice trading in gold. Most of my profits from the day came in gold as well. Small positive day for Dan Trader. Couldn't get in the flow of this range until the end. Market didn't know what it wanted to do, or it
Yeah,
did.
there was no flow.
What no flow? This was a like a puddle that
There you go.
the market was in.
Good.
Uh, Bing says, lost my first trade this morning. Practiced what Robin was talking about yesterday. Took a break and came back to place 2 winning trades. Locked up 75 points. Nice job. Jen and John read on the day journaling. Journaling is always good in good and bad days. Paul H, another green day thanks to MGC. Ended down in the XFA, but follow my rules, so it's a good day. That is a winning day for Tully. So,
Yeah.
okay, well, good stuff, everyone. How was your day, Coach Paul? Stay awake.
Um,
It's hard.
I stayed awake. Well, I was trading crude
Okay.
currencies and the 5 year. There was there was plenty of movement in those markets. But we'll go through them. But I think I etched out a small loss, all told. So
Uh,
I followed my rules.
Following the rules is all we can do. The markets are going to do what they want to do. And hopefully our rules bring us some profits at the end of the day. But let's talk about the markets. We did have some numbers out earlier this morning. S&P Services PMI final came in at 53.7. Forecast was 52.3. Composite PMI final came in at 53. Forecast was 52.1. We did have an ADP number come out as well. US ADP employment change came in at 37,000. Forecast was 113.5. And you may have heard Jack talking about this. He's like, that's not a good number. And while we were on fast markets, it's like, okay, if we keep getting bad numbers, how long is the market just going to ignore them? We do have a big number coming out on Friday. No, for Friday's non-farm payroll day. But we also know that we are in an environment where the planned news is not as impactful as the tariff news. So we will see if non-farm, has any impact on the markets. I think with the ADP number that came out, we saw an initial sell, and then markets kind of ranged all day. Uh, Quiet on the unplanned headline front. I think there were some tariffs that were supposed to go into place in Europe today. I know the president was asking for it. Yeah, I think today was also a deadline for any deals to be made with tariffs. So I didn't hear any headlines on that. Not really much there. Anything else you got on the news, Coach?
Well, once again, I'll go back and repeat myself. It's all about tariffs.
Yep.
But that ADP number was pretty, that was unexpected. It was out of the range. That's kind of concerning. I'd imagine a lot of that is layoffs. But market can feed on bad news.
Yep.
The interest rates really broke. Well, depending on the futures rallied pretty well on that news. Also, the news is The White House tweeted some mean stuff at the Chairman Powell again. Um, so that friction, and we'll see how that plays out. But it's getting that's concerning. Um, but all in all, that ADP report is it's time to pay attention.
Yeah, 100%. That yeah, that's very interesting. We did see yields coming down, right? Just talking about the Treasury market, we did see bonds rallying as well. Maybe we can talk about that because that was one of the markets. Looking at the bond market, the 30-year was one of the markets that was moving today. Speaking of which, we have 35 different markets that we can trade with Top Step accounts today. To the downside, we had heating oil down 1.53%, micro Bitcoin futures down 1.7%, and RBOB gasoline futures down 2.22% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. To the upside, we have wheat futures up 1.45%, platinum up 1.6%, and the Ultra Bond, speaking about the bonds, up 1.66% for our biggest percentage mover to the upside. We do got a Fed meeting coming up in supposed to be keeping rates the same, but we will see what happens there. I did see a comment from the president that said that Powell has to cut rates now. That was a comment from him today. To talk about our big four, we had crude oil down 1.12%. There was some news out of Saudi Arabia, I believe it was. Uh, the S&P is down 0.06%, basically flat. Gold up 0.57%, and the Nasdaq up 0.22% to round out our big four. I have an S&P chart up here. Uh, let's take a look at a daily. We didn't really go anywhere, but what I want to kind of focus on the daily, Coach Paul. What are we looking at here?
Still above the 200, but part of me, I mean, what's to say? We're going nowhere fast. Actually, today we went nowhere slow.
Very slow.
What was the range was 25 in the S&P?
That's what I wanted to bring it up for. Yeah, high to low range in the S&P.
25.
Yeah, low was 59.74. Yeah, exactly 25 points.
Yeah, I watch it. I mean, yeah,
Exactly 25
25
points.
points.
Daily ATR
That
is
was
94.
that was less than the opening range a couple months ago.
That's insane.
Now, with that said, that's what concerns. I'd be concerned is we're losing momentum, and well, we're above the 200. Any kind like that. Now we start getting bad news about employment. Um, any moment something could happen in Russia, Ukraine, um, or maybe I'm just panicking and we're in the summer doldrums. But technically, losing momentum to the upside here towards the top of this correction or this sideways movement, and it's hard to get bullish. It's hard to hold along when that's happening. So we'll see. Um, eh, I My gut tells me we're in for a little break here,
Agreed.
but
Days like today remind me to never be super definitive in any opinion of the market and super sure of myself, right? Where sometimes, and no one here, but sometimes you see people in the chat, oh, this guy's long, he's an idiot. This is clearly a short. Days like today, I'm sure there was somebody that said that, and I'm sure they were wrong on their on their trade. Because if you thought this market was going anywhere besides the 25-point range that it was in, you were wrong. Um, and that's okay. We have been talking about, on a daily, the market being in a range. Um, you know, if we zoom out again to that daily, this is a decent range on the daily. Enough points to kind of trade with these days. But on a day like today, for me at least, my objective is to not get chopped up. Um, no, I saw Dolby. Dolby had a great range trade idea. It didn't get tagged in. His entry was just a little bit lower, but he's looking at this and he says, I don't know why you guys are disrespecting this range. This is a beautiful trading day. Um, and some people's
yes, you
eyes are
would.
just going to see this way. Uh, Identify that you're that type of person. Let's take a look at the Globex opening range. First 30 minutes of the Globex range. VWAP, pretty much a flat line. Not really much to talk about in the overnight. But we were doing when we got on fast markets this morning. Andre asked, what are you looking for? And with this being the picture, sometimes traders ask, how do you know that it's going to be a range day? Ultimately, we don't know anything, but we can make a hypothesis. And what I like to do, Coach Paul, is think about potential catalysts for either range contraction or range expansion. We had a flat VWAP in the overnight. That tells
Hmm.
me consolidation. We're sitting right below 6,000. That tells me major level there. If there's no buying pressure, we're not going to push above it. We had two at ATR range days to start the week. Monday and Tuesday were normal range days. And we have a pretty big news catalyst coming up on Friday. All of those things combined usually leads to a range day. So coming into it, I think that was my hypothesis. Uh, it played out. And it didn't have to, but I think kind of framing out the day that way helps when you take your trades. I did take a Russell trade that was a short, and I set it on the air, right? I might have lost the picture, right? I lost the context of the day where I was short the Russell at the lows of the day. It looked like it wanted to go, but remember what type of day you framed it out to be, and it was a range day. Bounced right back up. Uh,
Boy, that is put that in the encyclopedia of range days. I mean,
yeah,
now with that said, I mean the price we broke out to new highs, but the volume was decent. Well, it wasn't light, tiny volume.
right.
So there was trade there, but the direction is that's the
Yeah,
buying, the breakout buying is not clicking. So
right.
there's no urgency. When we talk about urgency, there's no urgency to buy this.
None at all. There was at most, I think, during the day, 350 contracts sitting at 6,000 in the S&P. It's not a lot of size. And we didn't trade one contract, right? 59.99 the high. There was not one convinced buyer to go take out that price. Maybe they're building a position here for the next move, accumulating a position here, but um, you know, with a major level there, if buyers are really convinced, they should take it out. It's a nice opportunity to take some shorts up there with pretty cheap risk. Could have went with a one and a quarter stop, and if we break 6,000s, then I'm out. We see traders do that sometimes, and it worked once, twice, three times today. Uh, so there is opportunity. For me, I look elsewhere. Go ahead, Coach Paul.
Oh no, which I don't trade like that, but I mean there was the opportunity.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
I can't even see it was violently unchanged.
No, it
It's
was just we are
worse
stuck.
than a nice night session.
Yeah,
Um,
it almost felt like like a holiday.
yeah, it feel like a holiday market. Um,
Quick look at the Nasdaq. 21,800 was that level in the Nasdaq, which was the high of the range. Uh, Maybe a little bit more. What was the range on the Nasdaq today? High to low was about
800 and
160, 60 points high to low on the daily.
oh no, it was 306, 161.75.
161 points. There you go. Uh, Daily ATR is 140, 417. So about a third of the daily range. Maybe on a day like today where we know the equities are going to chop around, maybe the Nasdaq's the better one because there are more points available. But even then, flat market, pretty range bound. Uh, I see some traders in the chat saying today was not fun for me. I got chopped up. I don't know why I trade New York sessions. Identify that if you didn't have a great day today, that this market personality is what lends to that. And then you can say, okay, how do I avoid trading in this time, or how do I adjust and trade successfully during this time, if at all? For me, I think I've been trading long enough where I look at days like this and I hear range traders say, "Oh, you just buy it at the low and sell it at the high." My brain literally doesn't work like that, and I've tried, and I can do it with small size, but I never feel comfortable placing the trade. So that's kind of where I go to, and my thought process, Coach Ball, is no trade is a position, right? No position is a position, and it's okay to not be able to, you know. do everything, right? You don't see a quarterback catching passes. Well, sometimes, every once in a while, but they're not going to line up at
Sell order.
last play of the Super Bowl to catch a pass. Is they're probably going to drop it. Go ahead.
Well, you finish that thought, and I'll tell you because it's important to understand. You go ahead and finish that, and I
Uh,
will.
no, I mean, and JD just said it in the chat, right? Part of your process should be determining context. I 100% agree with that, right? How do I know what to expect out of the market if I don't know what personality the market's going to have for the day, right? People may be in relationships and things like that. You know when your partner is having a good day and when they're not, right? And it's just like, I might want to bring something up, but today's not the day to do that, right? And I think knowing the personality of the markets is as important. I could want a trend day, right? I wanted one in the Russell. I wanted the Russell to sell off down to 20,081. Sorry, 2081. Uh, it didn't do it, but it wasn't because just because I wanted it to doesn't mean it was going to do it. It was going to do whatever it wanted to do. And today, it said no selling. Now, what I'm taking this information from today and I may use it for tomorrow, right? Because I still think that 2080 is a good target in the Russell. Just when are you ready to do that and not when I'm going to try to force it to do it. It's important.
It truly is, and going into that today, if range market or it didn't do what you expected it to do, or what you wanted it to do. When you're thinking like that's just stop and think about this. You're trading with uncertain information all the time because the
Mhm.
only certainty we have is uncertainty. So I had the feeling this market was going to rally.
Yep.
I traded it that way and I lost. Um, Now I didn't blow out. Um, while I still might be a little annoyed that it didn't follow through, when I make the trades or when we make the trades, we're waiting. We have we don't have full information. Like I'll bring it again in poker. You don't know when you have to stay in and you ante up, you have to wait for the cards. So there's part of that psychology in poker is called resulting.
Yep.
So, you know, sometimes if you're getting upset on yourself or you start evaluating yourself, yeah, I would make this trade again. This is part of what I do. With that, I know that I can't be certain on any of this. And hey, was this a really bad day? Well, I will tell you this. We can go back to we were talking yesterday. If you have a reasonable DLL, guess what? You're done. Because, days like this, if you're struggle, are going to come. But you can't let them tear down your account. So this is really important to have that DLL when I say 12 to 15. All right.
Yep.
Because I hear that, and this can be a frustrating day for half the audience. But hey, I played, I, I lost, I'm done. I don't have to. If you have a plan, right, and you accepted that risk was part of your plan, uh, you don't have to really be upset. It's like, okay, this wasn't. I'm glad that I stopped. Change your change your attitude
Yep.
towards it. Was a losing day. It was.
Yep.
I lost money today, but I traded what I was supposed to do.
Agreed. Saw a comment from Courtney that said, "You don't know it's going to be a range day until it ends. These initial balance days usually are pretty violent," and that's true, right? We never know, but we don't know it's going to be a trend day until it ends either. Because we've seen some of those reverse. I think, and I'll try to find that document. setting the personality for the day helps. And like Coach Paul was just saying, I wanted to make money trading the Russell today, and I had a 4 lot on to the sell side. It was a pretty good trade. I took it off for $100. I had some profits coming into the day. Um, Once that trade stopped me out for that scratch, pretty much, I had to stop because there was a part of me, Coach Paul, that was holding on to that analysis that this market should go lower. And at the same time, I have to tell myself it doesn't matter what you think, right?
Yeah.
So are you going to trade what you want or what the market is saying? And it it sucks. But then if I look at it for what the market ended up being for the day, I'm very happy that I stopped because I don't know that I would have bought this. I would have kept trying to sell it and probably at the lows looking for a breakout that didn't happen. So know when your analysis doesn't fit the market, um, and just save yourself, right? Even if that means you made no money for the day, you'll have the mental capital and the actual capital to trade for tomorrow when the market does present something that you really like. All right, coach. Anything else on the equities?
Um, Nothing else really. Did Rusty hold the trend line?
Deleted it.
Ah,
Courtney switched to a practice account. Good call. I did the same thing actually, and I caught a nice short in the S and P's in my practice account. And then my brain goes to, couldn't you just have taken that in your XFAs? But no, it was a 50-50 trade. It just happened to work out. Here's that trend line.
okay. Well, it held the trend line. Um, this is a question. No, can we continue? Um, Actually, I like this. Still like this a little bit better than I like the other indices.
Yeah, yeah. Held the trend line yesterday. Pretty consolidated day today as well. Still in that range, but if it's gonna play catch up, and if we're gonna go, might be the one
Yeah.
that. Go ahead.
The other one too is that 20-day moving average.
Yep, trending higher.
That's yeah. So uh, still holding the trend line. Um, could say part of it is like expected a little more out of that. It's like Father's Day's gifts. Oh wow, a tie. Like you expect a little more out of the Rusty, but hey, once again, uncertainty. We can analyze all we want, but you have to execute. You can be wrong and lose right. So, um, interesting. We'll see if that we can hold that 20. That's all I got on the equities.
Good stuff. Rowboat says Nasdaq looks the strongest, and yeah, I think we agree with that, right? Nasdaq is the leader, the furthest above the 200 moving average. The 20 has already crossed the 200, and I think why Coach Paul is looking at the Russell is because if we have this broad-based rally that you talked about, Coach Paul, Russell has the most work to do.
Yeah,
Uh,
got some catch up.
let's go over to gold. Gold. Yeah, I think we see all-time high soon. Did I say that out loud?
I'm buying puts now.
Did I say that out loud? Take a look at gold on the daily. What are we looking at here?
Um, I could. There's no change in the gold either. Still looks pretty good. Um, I would have expected a little more of a rally. Speaking of small ranges, um, pretty small range. We were inside yesterday's selling range. Um, ditto from yesterday. What can I say? Still looks good.
Uh, Brad says, please talk about the Singapore open trade. 100%. So, what I want to look at on the daily in gold is we had this candle to start the week. We came down, checked 50% of it yesterday. I'm happy that we actually traded below that 50% because we were hovering it over it for a while during the opening call yesterday, and I was looking to buy it. But I think now that we've traded through that 50% and we couldn't hold below it, this has me leaning a little bit more to the upside in gold. So that level is 33.64. And then the trade that I had all my profits from the day today was along in gold, just looking for a trade back up to the high of this range. Let's go out to the 30-minute chart really quick and let's take a look at last night's open. There's last night's open, Coach Paul.
There you go. What else is there to say?
Yeah, kind
Now,
of. Go ahead.
both sides. I mean,
Yep.
it's kind of we took that range. That looked like the S&P, except where it did break up to the upside late. But I traded gold last night and took one trade, lost $120. Second day in a row. Um, uh,
But it's a setup you
wow,
take every time.
that is a chop trade. It's set up by taking the time, just trying to get this market to rally. I think I would have blown up an account.
Yeah.
But nice close. It's still being bought. But look at VWAP did leave. No, did it leave? Yeah, it left the opening range, but wow.
It left to the upside. A lot of back and forth action, kind of like we saw across the board. I'm gonna go down to a shorter time frame. We'll talk about the trade I took last night. Uh, and what we've been seeing, and Dakota's talked about it during slow markets. We've you know said with this open at 8 p.m. Central Time, right? We see this volume spike where I believe it is the Shanghai exchange opening up in gold. Uh, Dakota was short last night, and he took a nice short, right? And I think he closed his trade right at 33.69, um, right at those lows. I don't know if he did it on purpose or not. Who knows with that guy? Uh, but he got out of a nice trade. But and I think I said it in the slow markets chat yesterday. I'm going to wait for the this 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m. Central time open because we know we see a volume spike, right? And what we've seen over the past couple of days is even if something happens prior to this move is going to bring us volume and it's either going to continue the move or reverse it. And when we got that volume spike to the upside, it was all buying. I do the same thing I do all the time is attach VWAP to it, see how that aligns. That VWAP looked like it was ready to break out of that range to the upside really quick. So I bought it right away. I think I got it in long 33.75.40. Stop was about 3 points below 50% of this range. Just looking for a continuation. And from that point, it was just managing the trade from here. I think I've showed you guys how I trail before, but I think I took two off, so I don't get to see the chart like this, right? I get to see it like this. So I'm looking at this area here as a potential resistance. So I took 25% of the position off right here, and then I did have the targets higher, right? For me, I was looking for yesterday's high, which is all the way up at 34.17. I might have been the only person in the world looking for that because you can see we got nowhere close to it. But then just managing it from there, right? And then as we get into this chop closer to 3400s, just taking the rest of the position off. Uh,
Well, now don't shoot me,
mhm.
but is that a fair value gap when we came back?
This here,
I think it is. I've
ICT
been
traders in the chat, let us know. I think so.
I see traders. Let me know. I mean, if that works, I've seen people be very successful with it. And then, like I said, whatever works for you. But look at that breakdown right to where the stops got hit. Isn't that part of it? I mean, look. And by the way, that's the 8 p.m. Central, right?
8 p.m. Central, that's correct. I just had my computer just spazzed out for a second, but yeah, that's 8 p.m. Central.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. That is, and that's China. This is Shanghai exchange, right?
Yeah, that might be the one, Coach Paul. That might be the one.
Um, yeah, that is the one. We've seen this now for a month, a solid month. Um, but that is the open, especially in gold. What is the open? And well, it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can trade cash gold. So volume becomes really important. So looking at that, I'm forlorn because I was using the opening range at 5 Central.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I mean was a decent trade as well. It just whatever they do on that volume, they just get it going, right? And I think when we saw gold in that consolidation for a couple of weeks while Shanghai was on vacation or on holiday, and then they came back and immediately broke us out of the range. We went to all-time highs. Uh, they have my attention. They have my attention. We could see we even we came back, respected it a couple of times before it eventually broke through. But mm,
Well, try to buy it again at 8 o'clock tonight.
right. Uh, Someone says fair value gaps don't exist. The limit doesn't exist either. It's only in
Oh,
your mind. All right. Let's go over to crude oil. The limit. Uh, Crude oil on the 30-minute. Market Stalker D in the chat. What's up, D?
hey, D. Good to see you in the chat.
D, I caught some of your segment with Jerome this morning. I was trying to figure out what time it was when I woke up, and I'm like, oh wow, it's like 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning. I caught the tail end of it, but I do have to go back and rewatch it. But thanks for joining us. Crude oil, Coach Paul. What are we looking at? You said you traded crude today. What were you looking at? What did you see? Uh,
I was looking to buy. I bought it uh, on the opening. Um, and then there was an announcement by Saudi Arabia.
was
It, and then we have that breakdown to
what is this
the
here,
white
chat?
line.
What is that there? What's that there? That white
Um,
line on the
but
30-minute
I
chart
got stopped out. I have no problem. It looked like it was going to go. It seems to me like they waited to see if this thing was going to go to make this announcement to keep oil prices lower. I don't know. Doesn't matter. And even if I did know, I might have got long. No.
right.
But kind of violent reaction. We'll see tomorrow if we can hold this 200. Let's go to the daily. I mean, that was a big move for it was a short amount of time. Daily, we're still holding the 20 and the 50, and it's crossing. This almost looks like a cup and handle.
Hmm.
If this can't break when Saudi Arabia says we want oil prices lower,
Nothing can break it.
well, bad selling
Right.
drives the market higher
Yep.
more than good buying. Very interesting movement today. We held at 200. We're still above the 20 and the 50 on the daily. A shock price would be a rally. I don't hear anyone talking about a rally in crude, but who knows? Wayward missiles. I mean, anything can happen.
Right.
But yeah, I found it interesting though. It came out. The news came out after the
Inventories.
inventories,
So let's take a
which
look at that. Why don't we?
yeah,
Go ahead. You were gonna say something.
the inventories were bigger than expected. That's taken a lot out of my. That's where I did get stopped out. Um, but I found, yeah, what was it about a half an hour later? Saudi Arabia makes this announcement. Um, was ho- so we'll see tomorrow. I'm not getting too bearish. I mean that really that took two punches and still only finished like 75 cents lower.
Yep.
But technically on that daily, the 20 is crossing the 50. It look like we're building a cup and handle. Um, any unexpected or shock event in the next week will send this market reeling to the upside, in my opinion.
Stuff. D says always feels like somebody's about to pull the rug underneath her while trading crude. Uh, I felt like that in trading the equities today, but I do want to talk about this inventories print. Um, today's Wednesday, right? We know crude oil inventories come out on Wednesday. It's not always going to be the case, but I think a good way to look at trading crude, especially if you're not already in a position. Let's say it's you know 10 a.m. Eastern time and you haven't taken a trade yet, and you're looking at crude. Wait for inventories. Now, I'm not gonna say that you would have caught this move here, but same way we would do, a CPI print or FOMC, where you wait for the news to establish first, attach VWAP, and see where it goes from there. And then it was a decent short. Right now, again, nobody knows that this is going to happen besides the person who releases that headline. Um,
Yeah.
but if you were holding on to a trade for a breakout of that range, when you're good, you get lucky. Can my sound be turned up a little bit? There we go. Max volume there. But when you're good, you might get lucky. Now, yeah, I don't know how you catch this move without knowing that that headline was coming out. Um, but after that inventory print, and we can see volume starting to trend a little bit lower. Yeah, yeah. Maybe if you're good, you get lucky. I was Coach Paul. I know I was locked. On fast markets at this time. I was locked out of this trade. I love buying this move here.
Why is that?
Well, unsustainable volume. Unsustainable volume.
Yep.
Anytime it's funny. I saw someone in the chat when Andre was calling this out, and Andre's job is to bring entertainment, excitement, and talk about every market on Topstep TV. And some people seem like they get annoyed. They're like, "Oh, he's like, he's hyping up this market move. It's nothing. It's not a big deal." I think the way you frame any type of information, whether it be good or bad, is extremely important. Anytime I hear Andre saying, "Oh wow, we have a big drop in XYZ market," I pay attention almost immediately because that move doesn't happen without volume. And we've been talking about these high volume exhaustion reversals for how long, Coach Paul?
2
It's
years?
it's gonna come at the end of that type of reaction, unless it just sustains, right? So now the question is, we attach a VWAP to here. Immediately when I see that volume coming in, I think, okay, is there follow through, or are they just reacting to something? If there's no follow through and it's just a reaction, I want to fade it. I was locked out, but that's a trade that I look to take almost all the time. And Andre knows what the hell he's talking about. Does it on purpose. All right.
You know what
Uh,
else? With gold, we done. Let's look at the price action in the bonds.
Ultra Bonds was the biggest mover to the upside today. But let's take a look at the 30-year on the daily. Huh. Guess when you don't look at your charts long enough, you just leave trend lines on there.
Yeah, and you should.
Yeah,
Look where we went to, right to the 50. Can it continue through? I don't know. That kind of now we had a reaction, probably not from the tweet, but from the data.
right.
One thing I can say about Chair Powell, he's a data-driven man. That data, and let's go to the half hour. Look at
Wow. What did we do yesterday? We did VWAP and just lines, right? Oh well, that looks crazy.
yeah. Well, was crazy. Now
That's the market there.
in now, oh, wow, I like that green. Looks like a lime green. Um, so looking at the just before that news, oh, that's when on the half hour bar. Frame that out, and we had urgency.
The
Attach a
the
VWAP. All you
news
have to do is
the news candle.
attach VWAP. Yeah, the news candle.
We had ADP, and there was another print that ADP and something else came out
Uh,
at this time. But there you go.
Um, if we look at it from a 3-minute standpoint,
Right here. Oh my gosh.
And that went across the board. Yeah.
That's such a nice trade. That's such a nice
Um, yeah, that was so while the equities is interesting, while the equities were chasing their tail, the bonds had a big relief rally from the downturn because they were bouncing along those lows, and it was um there was some big shorts, I believe, in this market, and that spooked out the shorts. Um, so and
trade.
that was yeah. Well, let's even look at the 5 year. I think that was even more pronounced because the Fed,
Shout out to maybe you guys may have seen him on Topstep TV before, but shout out to Cortland. I do a work with Cortland on Tops called Topstep's Trader Success Team. Uh, he trades only the Treasury products, Coach Paul,
it was yeah.
nothing else. And I'm not gonna give away all of his secrets. Maybe he'll share that at one time. But I know he was trading today. Uh, here's the 5 year.
Now look at the size, and at 5 year, that size range with that volume. That to me as the DNA. Whenever you see that when we talk about this, that has the DNA that it can continue. Um, and boy, did it. Um, it was big move across the board in all the interest rates. Um, but I wanted there was a classic 3 minute. As we talk, but you don't have to trade the number. You can trade after the number.
Right.
Um,
So how would we trade this? Because we're talking about it, right? And we're looking at it, and I think we've talked about the DNA. But let's say somebody was brand new, Coach Paul. You're looking at this. What are you looking at? Right? You have the number, you have the print. How do you enter? Where's your entry? Where's your exit?
yeah. So you see the news. It's kind of shocking. Now you see the reaction. Now measure out. Well, but the first thing you look at is, should I buy this or should I fade it?
Right.
Really, it's almost like a TV game show.
Yeah.
Buy it or fade it. Um, now, depending on your personality, I would fade that. I was that person for a while, but even if you fade it, let's just look on. If you fade it, what's your risk, and what do you expect to get out of that? Well, without volume, if I don't have volume, I might fade that. But with volume, okay, what kind of volume was it? Was it outstanding volume?
Compared to everything else. 40,000 contracts in a 3 minute candle.
That's and the average, I mean, that's like what, 10 multiple of 10? This is important. So in an analysis, in my old days from being on the floor, was you really wanted to fade everything with the fade. But if I see that volume, especially in the treasuries, that off a report, um, there's not much retail business here. So this is big. This is large. This is institutional. Knowing that volume, okay, uh, I can make a decision. I with that volume, where is that going to fail? If I want to fade it, I have to fade the buyers. Think about that.
Right.
You're not
Right.
fading the price. You're fading the buyers,
Flow. Right.
the flow. Um, so now on the other side, okay, this looks friendly. I want to buy it. Well, how much can I afford to get long? I put it this way: either two ATRs. minimum. Even if I just decide to buy the breakout, well, what's two ATRs?
Two. What is going on? Can you still hear me?
Oh, I can hear you.
I hold on one second.
You're fading into the ether.
Yeah, I like put a new footrest under my desk and I kicked the connection from my cable, so everything kind of just blacked out for a second. But I'm back. I'm gonna stop moving, uh, and maybe move this footrest. But your risk would have been two ATRs would have been about 10 ticks
10 ticks. But in there it said $75 on a one lot
in the 5 year.
on a fiver.
Yep.
Now, not the lows, because it has to be. It's more than, was it 10 ticks, right?
Yep, about 8 ticks. Yeah, 8 to 10
Okay.
ticks.
By the way, can you afford that? I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
And you definitely get a 2 to 1. Maybe you want a 3 to 1, but that's on you. But because it can be greedy. If it doesn't get there and it comes back, you might be really frustrated if you're new. But going back to the beginning, there is an explosion of buying. Okay. If I want to go with the flow, what's it going to cost me? If I want to fade the flow, as just said, then I'm fading these big buyers. That was a classic example. And, you know, did you expect it to keep going? Well, day trader, that's why I go back to, if day trading 2 to 1, if you have an edge, you can keep doing 2 to 1 over a period of time without blowing up.
Like, yeah, and like you said, can you expect it to keep going? Maybe if you measured for that, but a 2 to 1 is good, right? You can do
Yeah,
multiple two. Go ahead.
maybe you do 2 lots at $75.
Right. It's a pretty solid day. Pretty solid day. All right. Let's get to some questions here. John says, would you use a tick chart on a volatile event like that for better entry risk management, or is that just
Mm.
too wild to decide to go or fade on that momentum? John, you could. I just think that solely relying on a tick chart could get noisy, right? But if you see some volume, so somebody had asked me to break down the Russell trade that I took this morning, the one that was actually a winner. So let me go back to that. I told you guys that I use, similar to how people use Bookmap, right? I use Quantower for, I execute trades on Topstep X, where you see on Topstep TV, but I have Quantower charts up on the side, and I have them up because I'm looking for a specific, picture in volume. The Russell trade that I took, and kind of to your question, John, was based on a volume spike in a 1 second period. Right? There was 400 contracts that traded in this 1 second. Now, am I going to trade with a 1 second chart? No. But the Quantower tool helps me just put an indication when this happens. So the trade that I took was a short, right? Because we got 400 contracts to 400 contracts in a second. I think 70% of that was sell side. And then if I frame out that 1 second period, we respected that the same way we would on any other time frame, right? And if I put view up there, we respected 50% of it. My short was right at 50%. Risk didn't have to be a whole lot because this is where the seller showed they came in. So I set my risk not exactly at this high because I wanted to give them the chance. Set it just a little bit higher, but it was based on that. So could you use a tick chart to do that? Yes, but I think I wouldn't sit here and stare at a 1 second chart because I would imagine there's gonna be a lot more false signals in a 1 second chart than anything. But who did we have on? Live trader who's in Costa Rica, and he trades on a 1 second chart. I just
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
can't remember his name.
I'm jealous. He's sitting in Costa
Yeah,
Rica.
yeah, right.
Yeah, he's good. He's got a great attitude.
And I think he's looking for something similar to that, right? You're looking for that momentum on a shorter time frame. I just and even with his trading, right, he had a longer time frame chart up, but it's not a bad idea. But I think keep it in context. It wasn't Dario. It was like a month or two ago. About 300 to 600 trades per day on a 1 second chart. Yeah, I mean, Like,
Now,
get your arcade game going. Go ahead, Coach Wall.
you better have good internet.
Oh, yeah,
Or you better have just like when it's in the unexpected computer problems.
right.
Internet goes down. Variable things. I don't. I'm not tell if it works for them, but you are mission critical to keep your internet connection if you're trading in that short term. Um,
Yeah, you have to. You have to.
anyway,
This range was a 1 second candle.
so that's a bid. Really, if you think of it, it's 1 second. That's really the bid and offer at that point.
Right. 1 second candle. Market respects volume when it comes in. Why did I frame that out? Because that was where volume traded. No other reason. Came up rejected that area a couple of times. But volume doesn't matter. Uh Coach
Well,
Paul.
I'm gonna go with
Go ahead.
volume. If there's no volume, there's no movement.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, you literally can't trade
Yeah,
if
let's go to your local grocery store.
okay.
Let's they stock. They stock their shelves based on what?
Demand.
Volume. If
Right.
it's not selling, it's not on our shelves. It goes on sale so they can what? Pick up volume to get rid of a loser.
Yep.
If it's literally flying off the shelves, they can't keep enough volume. They can they can't feed it.
Yep.
It's a market. It's a it's a market between buyers and sellers. If there's no volume, you have communism. By the way, it's going to come out somewhere. Markets are available all the time,
Right.
but they're moved by volume. If the supply equals the demand of them, that volume is going to do what? Be in
Yep.
balance.
Flat.
And I'll get
Yeah.
off my pulpit
That's
now.
why you might see your grocery store replenish something that does sell out, right? But look at COVID times, right? What was fly everything was flying off the shelves because there was way more demand than there was supply. And there's an imbalance. And anyone who went to the grocery store during COVID, you might have been looking for toilet paper and had to use some leaves because there was. Go ahead, or maybe you have a bidet. Go ahead.
Uh, there's still some people with a warehouse full of
Oh yeah,
toilet paper can't and now they can't get rid of it.
right. Ton of supply, no demand. It's just like
Well,
we're
and
good.
I have something I'll save that one, another comment. But right, that's a classic example.
Right.
There's lots of bids, but there wasn't. There's volume there, but it couldn't get met, and it goes limit up. In futures market, goes limit up.
Billy says used to be in the grocery game. A lot of fun, a lot of data. I used to be in the grocery game too. I worked at Walmart, stocking shelves. Um, I was actually planning on being a store manager at Walmart before I got into working in IT. But very interesting, very interesting. And I'm sure if you like manage stores or anything like that, you see a lot. Uh,
You see a lot. Yes, you do.
see a lot.
I, I was I was in high school, and yeah, I got fired from being a bagger because the same woman kept telling me how to pack her bags for like the fifth time. So I put the bread on the bottom because I was a young jerk.
Oh
They
man,
didn't flat out fire me. They just didn't put me back on.
put the bread under the milk.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Uh,
I
M-
was young and dumb. Maybe I'm not this young anymore.
uh, MS has a question. Let me ask this: off even that 3 minute candle, which I think we were talking about the 30 year, or we were on the 5 year at the time. I wonder how much previous price action that represented. Where would you look to take profit? 2 to 1, right? Coach Paul was talking about it. If you enter here, say your risk was 10 ticks, that's where you're looking to exit. You get it.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's good. Now, there's by the way, and I don't want to say it's like we're just picking. This is the DNA of a trade. There's nothing. I don't. There could be some new news that comes out and turns it all around. Now, if you're thinking in probabilistic terms, you can think, yeah, that can help. That can help. That can happen, but it's probably not. And if you can't get to that point, it's gonna be hard to trade.
Yep.
And that's a pure flow trade. Like I said, I wanted to bring up the sell side first. Give me some reason to sell this.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there really wasn't one. Or I mean, even if there was one, it gave you an indication that that was the wrong idea for at least this time frame. Any other markets you want to talk about, Coach Paul? We got about 5 minutes left, 5 or 15. I don't know how this goes.
um, yeah, let's look again at the dollar through the euro currency and the yen.
Sounds good. We do got a couple more questions in chat. Courtney, Janine, I see your questions, so we will make sure we get to those. Also, here is the euro
Um,
on the daily. You want to look at daily? You want to go shorter time frame?
daily, does that look like gold?
A lot like it.
Well, let's look at yen.
Very similar.
Very similar. And look what happened. They're going down to the 20 and the 50 on this correction and bounced. We're in this range. It's very much like gold. But here's the theme: dollar weakness, and it's picking up steam. My opinion. Look at that above the 200. Um, Earlier in the week or late last week, we had a big break and we wicked down and created a fair value gap on the daily, I think. Yeah, I'm going to bring it up. I don't know if you can trade that, but please share with us. I have, sometimes everything gets a bad name.
Yeah.
But
Separate the man from the message.
yeah, if that works for you, share with us. But that wick, we went down, tested it last night. We bounced off the 200 moving average. They didn't. It wasn't easy. I had to buy it a couple times, but um, the overall trend is weak dollar, and it's those kind of things don't change easily. The Canadian dollar, take a look at that. That's becoming a good trade.
Oh, that looks stronger than everything.
Yeah, yeah. To put up the moving averages, yeah, this is it's almost as if
Talking
other.
about highs of the year here.
Yep. No, that's what I'm. It's the rest of the world trusts Canada more than they trust the United States right now. It's more stable politically. They are, the next one I would look is its cousin, the Australian dollar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's a yeah. I mean, Coach Paul scouting report right here.
yeah, yeah. And see this. This is coming to look at all the moving averages are with getting tight.
Yep,
Um, we have a J trade.
off the lows here.
Oh yeah, yeah. But that 200, it's been hugging it. I just, I get the feeling that, not the feeling, we're starting to see evidence that countries are starting to trade or move money out
Other
of the
places.
US. It's a weaker dollar.
Yep. Interesting. Shout out to Doom. Took a short in the euro today, but I'd like, and Andre called it out as well. Just traders trading other markets on Topstep TV. We see a lot of focus on the equities. We talked about it in the green room before we got on, Coach Paul. The equities were, not the show today. There was a ton of movement in a bunch of other places. You can't trade everything, but I see it. You don't need to default to the same thing every day, especially if it's not presenting opportunity. There are days where it's just like, hey, I'm going to trade the equities and nothing else. That was a day like Monday, right? Or a day like yesterday. Equities, nothing else, because they're doing enough that I don't need to stray elsewhere. But they're not doing anything. You gotta be honest, right? Hey, something else might be a better opportunity. Uh, let's get to some questions. Unless you got something, Coach Paul.
No, I'm good.
All right, cool. We have, is retail dumping equities at the close or is that institutions? Peter Schapp.
Great question. They've been trying to rally, and at the close, so they're just. It's a really good question. Now, the way I analyze it is big volume. When we talk about volume, comes from institutions. So on days that where we break on the close, we have a lot. It tells me there's a lot of day trading that drove it up. Day traders have to even up in the last, and usually it's within the last half an hour. So if there's not an imbalance, or if it was mostly day trading had caused the imbalance, guess what's going to happen there to close? You're going to get selling. And I think that it's a really good question, and I just thinking that myself earlier, late last week, like that we're getting that type of action. Like either way, if it's selling and it's mostly speculative or day trading, it's going to turn around and go back the other way towards the close. That's the way I see it. I'll hand it off to you, Coach.
No, I agree exactly what you just said. It's probably a little bit of a combination of both. But I think you said it all there, Coach Paul. Uh, Other questions? Do I have any social media? We answered that one. What is the difference between the 10-year and the 5-year, Coach Paul?
The difference,
Yeah.
volatility. They will move together in the same, not lockstep, but they move in the same direction. Except for the 10-year has a smaller range. It has a smaller tick value. The minimum, they go into quarters, so it's $8 ticks
Yep.
versus $15 ticks.
Yeah. The longer time frame you go, right? So if you go 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, the higher you go up, the higher that tick value gets. So that 30 year is probably not the greatest for top step accounts, but the 5 and the 10 are pretty good. I think, Coach Paul.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, it's seven. It's the tick value for a 5-year is $7.8125.
They were just making shit up.
Well, I could get really mathy here, but I won't.
Right.
It's a quarter of a tick. But if you watch it, I would say instead of getting too caught up on the ticks, look at the daily average true range value. Then you see, then you can go down to the half hour and start seeing, you know, how it moves and what it's worth.
Stuff. Thank you for that. And then we got one more question from Courtney. Coach Jay, do you use footprint charts on Quant Tower to track volume or a volume indicator? I'm using volume indicators. I'll show this real quick. Also, we had a couple traders ask about the 150K subscriber videos when those were going to go out. I believe emails went out yesterday, and I believe the email had the entire playlist for all of the coaches. So I explain a lot more of this in that session. But I'll share my Quant Tower setup real quick. I don't use footprint charts, Courtney. To me, they're just a little bit too noisy. I do see the value in them, but I try to simplify or at least make my charts make sense to me. Show you real quick. what I'm looking at here. Here is my 3-minute chart on Quantower, what I'm normally looking at. We have VWAP here. We have what's called power trades, these big blocks, right? All these blue blocks here are called power trades. Those are set to a filter in the NASDAQ. It's showing me anytime 400 contracts trade in a second. And then I'm looking, anytime I get delta numbers, I'm looking at this on the bottom of the chart here. And I use a delta flow indicator, which is similar to volume, but it's just showing the effectiveness of that volume, right? How much was it buy side, sell side, and how effective were they at moving price? And that's it from there. And I think you can get that same information from footprint charts. To me, just having it this way helps me make sense of it. Uh, but good question. Question. Anything else before we go, Coach Paul?
Christian Williamson said the Coach Paul is spot on. The J6 6J currency, the price did trade down into a bullish daily fair value gap on May 29th. Thank you, Christian. So you can teach an old dog new tricks. And but by the way, I'll open yourself up. Don't just reject everything. I can't say that enough. I rejected moving averages and their value until I gave it an open mind. I went, oh, that helped me.
Yeah.
Now, whatever it is, if you don't have to change, but someone we had a question earlier in the week about what should I use to trade, what plan. There you go. Open your mind. You see something, you combine something, and whatever makes sense to you. So thanks for that. And that's how you learn.
And this is what Christian's talking about right here. Quantower has a fair value gap indicator, and whether fair value gaps exist or not, something happened here.
Yeah. Very interesting. So I just like buying the end because it's over the moving average. It's showing momentum to the upside. Buy the dips. Now, to find the dips, that's on you. I don't, I still lose buying those dips, but if catch one, it's like fishing. I'll go back to fishing. You can't catch a fish unless you you have a lure. They just don't jump into the boat. So whatever it is, in your trading, you have to take some risk. You have to put some skin in the game. How you do it and what you see is on you. If you can make that work, and I've seen some guys make it work, and girls. So good, continue it, and the best to you.
Stuff. All right. I think we got through all the questions. Oh, there was a comment from Joe Morel. Joe, you still here? Joe Morel is still here. He says first XFA started this morning and blew the account with 2 trades. Stop loss slippage. Joe, shout out to you for getting to an XFA. If you're still here, Joe, let me know. Let us know how quickly you got to that XFA. How many days did it take you to pass that combine? But Joe, I want you to take more accountability than blaming you losing the account on stop loss slippage. Right? You're more responsible than that. And you just made a decision today that didn't align with that responsible version of Joe that knows that stop loss slippage or not, I have to have a stop in and not over leverage on the first day of an account. Right? That's really what happened. Right? If we're just going to be honest, and we all have to be honest with ourselves. I've lost accounts in a day. I've lost a large amount of money in a day. It had nothing to do with slippage. Did the slippage take a little bit more than I was willing to lose? Probably. But I lost that money way before the slippage happened. And it was on the back of not making a decision that was in my best interest, right? So, you know, your first XFA, you can get back into another one, right? That's possible. But when you get back into that XFA, take full responsibility of the results of that account. And you know, manage the risk and give yourself a chance. But realistically, that was probably over leverage and not having that Coach Paul 12% suggestion of a stop loss. Coach Paul, anything you want to add to that?
You just took the words out of my mouth. Practicing the you're a part. It hurts like hell.
It really does. That shit is the worst. So stop doing that to yourself because it's terrible.
I
Go ahead.
I've done that. That's why I came up with that. I'm like, what? Someone said, well, you could just stop, and
Yeah.
but you can't when you're in it. Um, so the beautiful part, and when I was a broker for a while. One of the hardest parts of being a broker, maybe I care too much, is seeing people blow a lot of money, real money.
Right.
Like, like, but here was the thing: as a business, it costs you in marketing to bring customers in, and then they blow it up in a week. You don't just in a business sense. Like, if you had something like this, cut it off. I could go, hey, you know, I know these customers, they became friends of mine. I couldn't stop them, but if I would just put in a 12.5% on their account and they're locked out. It's almost better to have someone else do it.
Yeah.
But you can learn from that because that you know these are the moments where it's like, believe me, I've been there. You come back and you come to the realization that, like, all right, I can't allow that. How do I not allow that to happen again? No, I have one, and that's 12.5%.
Sometimes I think Coach Paul, someone was saying that. I think it was Robin Dane was saying this. Sometimes when you see something about to happen, right, where there's a point where you're in a trade and you might know that you're probably going to lose this account if the trade keeps going the way it is. But it's almost kind of cathartic, right? Where it's just like, hey, and we talked about this before, um, but there's pressure in trading. Every trading decision that you make, there's pressure, right? Um, there's the potential for pressure, right? And we add more by over leveraging. Um, so what you might be doing subconsciously is whatever it takes to alleviate pressure. That might not always be the in the best interest of your account, though, right? If I blow up this account, the pressure's gone. There's no pressure for me to sustain it. There's no pressure for me to maintain it and trade it tomorrow. The problem is once you alleviate that pressure, there's no account for you to trade, right? The end goal here is to make money from these accounts. So you have to accept that that pressure is going to be there and then make the right decisions either way. But that's always going to be there, right? So just understand that and then do yourself a favor, like Coach Paul is saying, put that risk management in place because we can't always assume that we're going to make the right decisions under pressure, right? Fight or flight is a real thing, and sometimes you want to fight. And Coach Paul, you ever try to fight these markets?
They've won every time.
Every time,
They're batting 1,000.
right? So you know, give yourself a chance by managing that risk that way. But thank you for sharing it. Thank you for bringing it up. Thank you for being honest. I think that helps. Um,
Yeah, that really helps. That's the first step.
all right, Coach Hoop is doing a class in 25 seconds. Discord. We went longer today than normal, so we're gonna head out. Coach Paul, you got anything before we go?
Oh, wow. Have a good night, and we'll talk again tomorrow.
We'll talk to you all tomorrow. Coach Hoop in Discord, Coach Ray and Vince in Discord, Coach Dakota with Slow Markets tonight at 7:30. Catch you all then. Have a good one. Trade well, manage your risk, and we'll see you soon.